kind of a parody of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I don't know if any of y'all have read it, but or seen the movie, but the portion of it that is the tale of the three brothers, I decided to kind of rewrite a parody of it, explaining it in the different dimensions instead of the Deathly Hallows. And while I was looking for ideas for my project, I was at Hot Topic looking at the Harry Potter stuff because I was all excited about the next movie, and I saw one of the Deathly Hallows necklaces, and I realized that each part of it could represent a different dimension. So I made a very quickly made poster to kind of describe how I thought of it. I thought at the top of it is the zero dimension because it's a point, and how we learned in class there's 0 degrees of freedom. So all that exists is the point itself, nothing can exist on it. The first dimension is the line that goes straight down because we talked about how there's only 1 degree of freedom and you can only move back and forth in one direction. The second dimension is the triangle because it's a 2-dimensional figure and you can only move in 2 different directions. And I chose the third dimension. I kind of shifted it a little bit. Instead of just being a circle, I decided to make it a sphere, so it would represent the third dimension. And I guess I'll go ahead and read my parody of the Tale of the Three Brothers to kind of explain how I made each part represent different things. There once were 3 brothers who were traveling with one another down a secluded path. The sun had set and the path was dimly lit by the shrouded moonlight that peeked through the trees. After quite some time, the brothers came across a river that was far too deep to get across. Faced with this dilemma, the brothers summoned the magical powers that they possessed. With each of them making a significant effort, the brothers caused a bridge to appear across the river, making it possible for them to cross in safety. Yet once they reached the opposite side of the river, they felt a tangible force blocking their path. Death had been watching the brothers as they traveled, hoping to ensnare them once they reached the river. He was furious to have been denied 3 lives that night by the brothers' use of magic. Death desired to punish the brothers by banishing them to varying realms of different dimensions. You see, Death himself existed in a 3rd dimension. He could see the brothers in their 2-dimensional world, but they could not see him. Death could only make a small part of himself appear in the 2-dimensional realm. After concocting his plan to backhandedly punish the 3 brothers, Death appeared to the men in the moonlight. Only his ghastly face appeared floating above them. The brothers gasped in unison, terrified by the awful sight. Death, amused by their fear, instilled false security in the brothers, assuring them that he wanted to reward them for their brilliant use of magic. He explained that the brothers must each choose 1 prize from 3 objects. The first object was a stone possessing great power. It held the promise of making anyone the single most important and influential person in their own realm. The second object was a wand that honed the ability to provide its owner with great wisdom. Whoever possessed the wand would find himself able to perceive things much more simply. Life's path would become as straight as an arrow. The third and final object was Death's cloak. The cloak boasted the gift of invisibility. The 3 brothers chose their objects after much consideration. They thought it most fair to allow the eldest brother to choose first. He found himself transported to the realm that Death had promised once he chose the stone. This brother was banished to the realm of 0 dimensions. He was indeed the most important person in the realm, since he was the realm itself. There was no room for anyone or anything to exist. With 0 degrees of freedom, the eldest brother lived the rest of his life in utter solitude. Death came for him once he lost his will to live. The middle brother had desired the stone, but settled for the wand of wisdom. He found himself sent to a realm that existed as an infinite thread. In the realm of the 1st dimension, he could only move frontwards or backwards. He reveled in the simplicity of his new life for quite some time, yet after a great many years, he began to feel as if he was retracing his steps. Only having a single degree of freedom, no matter how simple it made his life, drove the middle brother to the brink of insanity. There was literally nowhere else to turn. It was at this point that Death came for him. The youngest brother had been left with no choice but to accept the gift of Death's cloak of invisibility. This brother was blessed to be allowed to stay in his familiar 2-dimensional realm while living under the cover of the cloak. He was free to visit his family and friends who existed on the realm's plane, as long as he physically remained invisible beneath the cloak's protection. After a lifetime of conversations with his loved ones, the youngest brother surrendered his cloak to Death. He had existed all of the years in the realm closest to Death's. Once called by the last remaining brother, Death met him as a friend. And one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting after I wrote the story was, since the 3rd dimension is a sphere, and Death lives in the sphere, he could kind of see all of the other dimensions. So I thought that was a kind of neat aspect of it. Are there any questions?
No, but you're the J.
Yes.
How exactly would you make a 2-dimensional person into a 1-dimensional or 0-dimensional person?
So how would I make a two-dimensional person into a one-dimensional
Yeah.
person? I kind of left that up to Dad's magic abilities. I don't really think that was
Suspended
through all the
disbelief
way.
is magic.
It's magic. Any other questions?